Yesterday we ended with the objective phenomena. So objective material phenomena means just the objects. And there are 5 sense fields which serve as the objective supports for the corresponding types of sense consciousness. Now there are 5 sense consciousness: eye consciousness, ear, nose, tongue and body consciousness. And so there are corresponding objects for these sense consciousnesses, and so they are a visible object, sound, smell, taste and tangibility or touch. And touch really means a combination of 3 great essentials: earth, fire and air. So these serve as the objects for these 5 sense consciousnesses. In Pali they are called Gochara Rūpa or Visaya Rūpa. Now if you want to see the Pali, please have the page in the handout ready with you. So Gochara Rūpa or Visaya Rūpa. So they are objective material phenomena. And after that come Bhava Rūpa or sexual phenomena. And there are 2, they are called faculties also, and they are the faculties, faculty of femininity and faculty of masculinity. Now these faculties have respectively the characteristic of the male sex and of female sex and of the male sex. Their function is to show femininity and masculinity. They are manifested as the reason for the mark, sign, work and ways of the female and of the male. Now the femininity or masculinity means something by which we know that a being is a male or a female. And there are said to be the mark, sign, work and ways of females and males. They have different marks, different signs, different work and different ways of doing things of male, female and male. And so by observing these, we know that a being is a male or a female. So the reason for the mark means just the reason why we know that a being is a female or a male. And so the mark, sign, work and the ways themselves are reasons here. For the sexual structure of the body. So a male is different from female and a female is different from male. And so when we see now this is a man, we know that this is a man, and when we see a woman, we know this is a woman, because their body structure is different. And it's feminine or masculine features. So their features are also different. Females have one kind of features and the male has another kind of features. So just by observing the features, we know that a being is a female or a male. And for the typical feminine and masculine occupations, that means the work they do. Men do heavy work and so on, and women don't do something like that. So, and also when girls play, they play with some toys and small toys. When boys play, they play with different things. So by looking at how they play, then you know that this is a girl or this is a boy. And also the typical feminine and masculine deportment. So how they walk, how they sit and so on. Now you can know just by looking at a person, how he or she sits or he walks, you know that this is a man or this is a woman, even though you cannot see the person clearly with the room with the dim light. Now you know that this is a woman walking or this is a man walking, because they are different. So that something that makes us know that this is a man, this is a woman, is what is called phenomena of sex. So this is a kind of Rūpa, this is a kind of material property, and it is said that this Rūpa or material property is located in the whole of the body. So wherever in the body of man the masculinity is distributed everywhere, and in the body of a woman the femininity is distributed in all parts or places. And the next one is Hriddaya Rūpa, material phenomenon of the heart. Now, on the heart base, see chapter 3, section 20. The heart base has a characteristic of being the material support for the mind element and the mind consciousness element. Now, mind element means 5 sense door adverting and 2 receiving consciousness. So there are 2 things here, mind element and mind consciousness element. 5 sense door adverting and 2 receiving consciousnesses. So they are called mind element. And these 2 are called what? Seeing consciousness element. So seeing consciousness element, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching consciousness element. And these, the 5 sense door adverting and 2 receiving consciousnesses are called mind element, and in Pali they are called mano dhatu. And the rest are called mind consciousness element, mano vijnana dhatu. So heart base is the support for, or is the seat of the mind element and the mind consciousness element for those types of consciousness rather than the 10 sense consciousnesses. Now its function is to uphold them. It is manifested as the carrying of these elements. So it is to be found in dependence on the blood in the heart. Now, not the heart itself is called Hriddaya Vatu here. Although the word Hriddaya means a heart, the Hriddaya Vatu is not the heart itself, but it is to be found in dependence on the blood in the heart. So blood is always circulating from the heart, and this heart base exists depending on the blood inside the heart, and is assisted by the 4 great essentials and maintained by the life faculty. So it is kept alive by life faculty, and it is supported by the 4 great essentials. Now, Hriddaya Vatu is always a problem. So please turn to page 144. This is chapter 3, section 20. Now the heart base. According to the Pali commentators, the heart serves as a physical support for all citas other than the 2 sets of 5 full sense consciousnesses, which take their respective sensitivities as their basis. In the canonical Abhidhamma, the heart base is not expressly mentioned. Now this is a problem, because Abhidhamma is a place where all realities are mentioned. All citas are mentioned, all citasikas are mentioned. So we expect that all Rūpas are mentioned in Abhidhamma. And the first book of Abhidhamma enumerated all Chetas, Cetasikas and Rūpa. But in that book, the heart base is not mentioned. The heart base is missing in the Dhammasankani, the chapter on Rūpa of Dhammasankani. But in the Patthana, the seventh book of Abhidhamma, the last book of Abhidhamma, it simply speaks of that matter in dependence on which the mind element and mind consciousness element occur. So, even in Patthana, Buddha did not use the word hadaya, heart. Buddha used a pronoun. A certain matter, depending on which the mind element and mind consciousness element occur, and that matter serves as support and so on. So, there is a problem for the commentators here to explain that that matter means the heart base. The Buddha did not say that it is the heart base, even in Patthana, the seventh book of Abhidhamma. So he just said, on a certain Rūpa, the mind element and mind consciousness element depends, and that matter is a support for the mind element and mind consciousness element. But the commentators interpret that to mean the heart base. They give us some reasons for that. So, on the handout, I've given that reasons for existence of hadaya vatu, as explained in the commentaries. Now, manodhatu and manoviññana dhatu, mind element and mind consciousness element, when they arise in Kama Vajra sphere and Rūpa Vajra sphere, they must depend on matter. So, when Chitta arises in Kama Vajra realm and Rūpa Vajra realm, they must have a material base. So, manodhatu and manoviññana dhatu are consciousness, and when they arise in Kama Vajra and Rūpa Vajra realms, then they must depend on matter. They cannot arise without depending on the matter. Just as Chakku Viññāna and others depend on eye sensitivity and others. So seeing consciousness depend on the eye or eye sensitivity, hearing consciousness depend on the ear sensitivity and so on. So just as the Chakku Viññāna and others depend on eye sensitivity and others, so manodhatu and manoviññana dhatu must depend on some kind of matter. What can that matter be? That Rūpa cannot be the four Mahabhutas. Mahabhutas means the great essentials: earth element, water element, fire element and air element. So that Rūpa cannot be the four great essentials, because they are depended upon by Upada Rūpas. Upada Rūpa means depending Rūpas. There are 24 depending Rūpas. So, because they are dependent upon by Upada Rūpas, they cannot be a dependence for manodhatu and manoviññana dhatu, because they already have to be occupied with the Upada Rūpas. So, the matter which manodhatu and manoviññana dhatu depend cannot be the four Mahabhutas, four great essentials. So it is called a method of elimination. Now we have some Rūpas, and then we eliminate one after another. So this is a method of elimination. Now the Mahabhutas are eliminated. Therefore, that Rūpa must be an Upada Rūpa. If it is not Mahabhuta, if it is not great essential, then it must be the ones that depend on the four great essentials. among the Upada Rupas, they cannot depend on Chakku or eye sensitivity, etc. because they, the Chakku and others, are dependent upon by Chakku Vijnana, seeing consciousness, etc. So, the Upada Rupas cannot be the eye, ear, nose, tongue and body because they are dependent upon by seeing consciousness and so on. Neither can they depend on Rupa, Saddha and so on. That means these two, Manodhatu and Manovijnana Dhatu, cannot depend on sight, sound and so on because they, sight, sound and so on, can be found externally too. Because Hridaya must be internal. So, it cannot be the Rupa that Manodhatu and Manovijnana Dhatu depend upon cannot be sight, sound, taste, smell and touch. Because they can be found externally also. They cannot depend on Jivita, life faculty, because it has the specific function of protecting the cognizant Rupas. It has the work of, the job of protecting the other Rupas that arise with it. And since it has that function, it cannot function as the seat for Manodhatu and Manovijnana Dhatu. They cannot depend on the two qualities of sex either. They cannot depend on femininity or masculinity. Why? Because these dhatus arise also in those who have no sex qualities. Now there are beings who have no sex qualities, who are neither female nor male. So they are sexless persons. Now these two, Manodhatu and Manovijnana Dhatu, can arise in those persons, and so they cannot be the support of Manodhatu and Manovijnana Dhatu. Then they do not depend on ahara. We have not come to ahara yet. They do not depend on ahara. Ahara means nutrition. So they do not depend on ahara for the same reason that it is found externally too. Ahara can be found in anything outside also. It should therefore be understood that there must be some other Rupa or matter on which these dhatus must depend, and that Rupa must be a dependent one itself, because it must depend on the four great essentials and not a Mahabhuta. And that dependent one, which is the seat of these dhatus, is none other than the Hridaya Vatu. So here it is very arbitrary. So since the others cannot be the dependents of Manodhatu and Manovijnana Dhatu, there is only one left, and that one must be the Hridaya Vatu or heart base. So this is the argument the ancient teachers put forward. So, following this argument, then the Rupa on which Manodhatu and Manovijnana Dhatu depend cannot be four essentials, cannot be eye and so on, cannot be visible object and so on, cannot be jivita, cannot be femininity or masculinity, cannot be nutriment. So, what else? There is only one left, and that is Hridaya Vatu. Now, let us say we accept this, but we have another question. Now, as you said, we accept that there is a Rupa called Hridaya Vatu. But why is it not mentioned in the Dhammasangani, where actually all ultimate realities are listed? So in the list of Rupas, in the chapter on Rupa in the book Dhammasangani, heart base was not mentioned. So the reason why it was not mentioned in the Dhammasangani, where all Rupas are mentioned, actually not only Rūpas, Cetas and Cetasikas also, is that if it were mentioned there, the uniformity of presentation of the Vattu Dukkha and Aramana Dukkha, so important for the understanding of the doctrine and the realization of the truth by listeners, would be broken, and thus defeat the very purpose of the doctrine, the realization of truth by listeners. Now, listeners have some kind of peculiarities in their minds. Now, some like this, some like another one, and so on. So when Buddha was enumerating the Rūpas, he enumerated in what are called diets. So there are two sets of diets. They are called Vattu Dukkha and Aramana Dukkha. So by way of bases and by way of objects. So when teaching the Vattu Dukkha and Aramana Dukkha, Buddha did not mention the Hadaya Vattu or hard base there. That is because if he were to teach the Vattu Dukkha and Aramana Dukkha in detail, say in completion, then it would make his listeners difficult to realize the truth. Now, when you are taught something and you are listening to it, there is some kind of a rhythm or something. So when you are listening to, and these are two, these are two, these are two, these are two, and then the last one, this is only one, something like that. When you hear this, then your hearing is interrupted or disturbed. So Buddha did not want to make the minds of his listeners disturbed by stating not the full enumeration of the Rūpas here. So Buddha left them out. That means although there is Hadaya Vattu, Buddha did not mention Hadaya Vattu here for fear that if he put in the Hadaya Vattu, it would break the way of presentation of the Rūpas here, and that way of presentation is very important for his listeners to see the truth, to gain enlightenment. Now, in order to understand this, please turn to another page in the handouts. Now, Vattu diet and Aramana diet. So there Buddha mentioned there is Rūpa, which is the base or seat of eye consciousness. There is Rūpa, which is not the base of eye consciousness. Now there are two. So the base of eye consciousness means the eye, and not the base of eye consciousness means the other Rūpas. Similarly with the second one, there is Rūpa which is the base of ear consciousness, and there is Rūpa which is not the base of ear consciousness. So the first means the ears, and the second means all others except ears. And the third is there is Rūpa which is the base of nose consciousness, and there is Rūpa which is not the base of nose consciousness. Again there you can find out that one means the nose sensitivity, and the other means the other Rūpas except nose sensitivity. The four also, there is Rūpa which is the base of tongue consciousness and which is not the base of tongue consciousness. And the fifth, there is Rūpa which is the base of body consciousness, and there is Rūpa which is not the base of body consciousness. So they are easy to understand. Now we come to Aramana diet with regard to objects. Now here Buddha said, there is Rūpa which is the object of eye consciousness. What is the object of eye consciousness? Visible object. And there is Rūpa which is not the object of eye consciousness. The remaining material properties, except the visible object. So this, similarly with the other diets, there is Rūpa which is the object of ear consciousness and which is not the object of ear consciousness. And number 3 and 4 the same. Now we come to 5. There is Rūpa which is the object of body consciousness, and there is Rūpa which is not the object of body consciousness. Up till now we have no problem. Now, if Buddha were to put the 6th diet in the Vatu diet, he would have said, there is Rūpa which is the base of mind consciousness. There is Rūpa which is not the base of mind consciousness. Now, what is the base of mind consciousness? It is the heart base. And what is not the base of mind consciousness? The other material properties. So we are still okay with this sixth diet in the Vatu diet or base diet. But when we come to the Aramana diet, we have a problem. There is Rūpa which is the object of mind consciousness. That means all Rūpas. All Rūpas can be object of other consciousness rather than the 10, seeing, etc., and then the 3 mind element. So the other types of consciousness are called mind consciousness, and the Rūpa which is the object of mind consciousness means all the Rūpas. So it is okay. But the second one, there is Rūpa which is not the object of mind consciousness. There is nothing which is not the object of mind consciousness, because every Rūpa is the object of mind consciousness. So in this sixth diet, Aramana diet, for sentence 1, we are alright, because we can say all Rūpas are the object of mind consciousness. But when we come to the second sentence, we have nothing to offer. We can say only, no, there is nothing which is not the object of mind consciousness. So the way of presentation would be broken there. So when it is broken, the minds of the listeners would be disturbed. And so it would be impossible for them to get enlightenment or to see the truth. So in order not to disturb their understanding, in order not to disturb their mind, Buddha left out the sixth diet also in the Vatu diet. Although it is alright to have the sixth diet among the Vatu diet, but when he came to the seventh Aramana diet, then it would be impossible to put in the sixth Aramana diet. So when he could not put the sixth Aramana diet in among the Aramana diets, then he also left the sixth Vatu diet from among the Vatu diets. So that is why Kadya is not mentioned in the first book of Abhidhamma, the Dhammasangani. So in the seventh book of Abhidhamma, Haryavatu is mentioned by the words a certain Rūpa, and that a certain Rūpa should be the Haryavatu for the considerations we just studied. So by the method of elimination, we eliminate one by one, and so we are left with just the heart base. So according to the Abhidhamma teachings, heart base is the base of or seed of many types of consciousness. It is not the seed of seeing consciousness, but it is a seed of other types of consciousness. And nowadays there are heart transplants. So this is a problem. I just read an article written by a Burmese monk. He was relaying an article in English he read. He lives in the United States. I didn't get to read that article in English. So in the Burmese article he said there was a report of a person who received the transplant. So after he became well again, he began to like things that he did not like before. He wanted to smoke, and he liked the food which he did not like before. So he was unable to understand why this change. So he tried to find out the donor. So he met the wife of the donor, and the wife of the donor said her husband liked this smoking and this kind of food and so on. So it is nowadays, at least accepted that there must be connection between mind and the heart, and not just with the brain. So brain may be involved in this working of mind, but we cannot rule out the heart as the base of consciousness. And also, when we are happy, we have some kind of feeling in the heart. When we are sad, another kind of feeling. And when we are afraid, then the heart will beat violently and so on. And so we take that the heart is the base of the many types of consciousness. So this is a heart base. Okay, the next one is Jivitendriya, life faculty. So this is the material life faculty, and there is another life faculty among the 52 Chaitasikas. So it is a material counterpart of the mental life faculty, one of the 7 universal Chaitasikas. Now it is called a faculty because it has a dominating influence over its adjuncts. Now this jivita or life faculty protects the material properties that arise and exist with it. Now there is a question. If life faculty protects others, who protects it? So we say life faculty protects the connascent material properties. Then who protects it? It protects itself while protecting the other material properties. And it is explained with the simile of a boatman. So when a boatman takes the boat to the other shore, he takes himself too. When a boatman takes other people to the other shore, he takes himself to the other shore too. So in the same way, when it arises, it protects other material properties as well as itself. This is one of the components of life faculty. The others are heat, body heat, and consciousness. And the next one is ahara, nutriment. And it is a nutritive essence that we find in the food we eat. The Pali word kabalikahara means loosely edible food. Now kabalikara means making a handful. Ahara means a nutritive essence or food. So food after making a handful. That means when you eat, you make a handful of food and then you put it in your mouth. But the ahara here is not the food itself, but the nutritive essence that is in the food. So that is why this ahara can be found anywhere. Not only in food, but in outside things also, in flowers also, there is a kind of nutritive essence. So that is what is called ahara among the 28 types of material properties. So up till now, we get 18 types of material properties, beginning with earth element, water element, and so on. And as I explained yesterday, the tangibility has no separate number because tangibility is nothing but earth, fire, and water combined. And then there are femininity and so on. So we get these 18 types of material properties. And these 18 are called in Pali, top of the page, Nibbana Rūpa, concretely produced matter. These are the real matter. And so they are described as, first, matter possessing intrinsic nature. So they have their own nature. Each has a distinct objective nature, such as hardness in the case of earth element, etc. So earth element has hardness, and water element has cohesiveness or fluidity as its characteristic, and so on. So they have their own characteristics. And they are described as matter possessing real characteristics again. So here real characteristics mean they are impermanent, they are suffering, and they are no soul. And also they have the three marks of conditioned phenomena, that is arising, present, and passing away. So these are called marks or characteristics, because by these marks we know that they are impermanent. Now you know something to be impermanent when you see that it arises and disappears. And when you see arising and disappearing of a thing, especially the disappearing after arising, you know that it is impermanent. When you know that it is impermanent, you also know that it is suffering, it is dukkha. And also you know that there is no core, no permanent entity there, and so you also know another. So these are called characteristics or marks. And these 18, since they are the real existing phenomena, have these characteristics. So they are called matter possessing real characteristics. And also they are called concretely produced matter, because they are directly produced by conditions such as karma, etc. Now you will study the causes of Rūpa later. And there are 4 causes of Rūpa: karma, consciousness, utu or temperature, and ahara or nutriment. So they are produced by these 4 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of these causes, and so they are called concretely produced matter. And also they are called material matter. That means matter, the real matter. Now Rūpa. In Pali it is called Rūpa. That means when we repeat something, we made it more emphatic. So when we say not just Rūpa, but Rūpa, that means Rūpa which is real Rūpa. Now, beginning with the space element, there are 10 material properties. They are not real Rūpas actually. They are just some modes of the 18 we just studied. So they do not have the real arising, presence, and disappearing, but they are called Rūpa. So the 18 are not like those. The 10 non-concrete matter, the 10 are called Rūpa, but these 18 are Rūpa, a real Rūpa, not like those. When we say Rūpa, they are real Rūpa. They possess the real characteristic of undergoing deformation or change. And they are also called matter to be comprehended by insight. Now that is important, because they are to be made the objects of insight contemplation by way of the 3 characteristics. That means when you practice vipassana meditation, you can take only one of these 18 as object, and not the 10 we are to study. Because the other 10 are actually not real or not real ultimate realities, although they are mentioned as Rūpa here. So only the 18 concretely produced matter can become the object of vipassana meditation. So when you practice vipassana meditation, you may take earth element as the object and try to see it as impermanent, suffering, and on so. Or you may take some others of these 18 as the object of your vipassana meditation. But you cannot take the space element as the object of vipassana meditation, and so on. So these 18 kinds of material phenomena are the real Rūpa or the real matter, and they are called by different names. Sabhava Rūpa, matter possessing intrinsic nature, or matter Salakkhana Rūpa, matter possessing real characteristics or real marks. Nibbana Rūpa, concretely produced matter. Rūpa, the real matter or material matter. And Sammasana Rūpa, matter to be comprehended by insight, or matter that can be comprehended by insight. That can be the object of your insight meditation or vipassana meditation. Now we come to Anibbana Rūpa, non-concrete matter. So they are not real matter, but they are included in this list as matter. And the first one of them is Parichheda Rūpa. Now in the manual it is Akasa Dhatu. Akasa means space. And so this is space. Space element. And space element here means space between groups of matter. In another section, you will study the grouping of matters. So matters are grouped together like the thought processes. There are, say, a group of 8 material properties, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and so on. So they are studied as groups. This space element is the space between these groups of matter. Now when two groups meet, even though we do not see the space, there is a space. So that space between the groups of matter is what is called space element here. Not the open space, what we call space now. So that is not space element meant here. And then there is what is called a limited space. That means it's the space limited by some hole or something. So that space is also not the space here. And also there is another kind of space that a yogi removes when he wants to practice or attain Arupa Vajra Jhana. So when he wants to attain Arupa Vajra Jhana, he takes the space as object, right? So that space he obtained through or after removing the mental image. So that is also called space, and that is the object of the first Arupa Vajra Jhana consciousness. But space here does not mean that. So space here means actually the space that becomes evident when 2 or 3 groups of matter come together. So when these 2 or 3 groups meet, then between them there is a kind of space. And that space in between the material groups is called space element or Akasa Dhatu here. Since it is just space, it has no actual existence. And the next are in Pali called Viññati Rūpa, communicating phenomena. Or here intimating material phenomena. Viññati intimation is that by means of which one communicates one's ideas, feelings and attitudes to another. So viññati is something by which we let other people know our wishes, know what we want to do. So that is called Viññati in Pali, and it is translated here as intimation. And there are 2 kinds of intimations, bodily intimation and verbal or vocal intimation. By body we make other people understand, and by speech we make other people understand our wish, our desires, and so on. The bodily intimation is a particular mode in the consciousness originated air element, which causes the body to move in ways that reveal one's intentions. Do you understand that? So, let us say, I want to call you. So when I want to call you, when I want you to come here, then I will use this gesture, right? So first, there is the intention in my mind, I want to call him, the desire. And then that desire, along with the chitta, produces what I call air elements in my hand. And since there are billions of thought movements, the air elements are also billions. So with the increase of the billions of air elements in the hand, we think there is the movement of the hand. So that movement of the hand is what is called a bodily intimation. But not every movement is called bodily intimation. When I am asleep, I may make movements. But those movements are not caused by this bodily intimation. They're just caused by some physical reasons. So here, there is something which is particular to this kind of movement. When I use this movement, calling you with the hand, there is something here so that you understand that, oh, I am called. He wants me to go there. That particular mode is what is called bodily intimation. So that bodily intimation you cannot see with your eyes actually. What you see is just the hand, just the visible objects in the hand. But from the movement of the hand, a particular mode of movement of the hand, you know that, oh, he wants me to go there. So that kind of movement is called bodily intimation. And it can be understood or perceived only through your mind, not through your body. Although what you really see is not the intimation but the movement of the body. So in this case, there is a question, are the air elements, many pieces of air elements produced, are they bodily intimation? If air element is bodily intimation, it can be anywhere. Even it can be outside living beings. Is the desire or mind bodily intimation? In that case, we have always this consciousness of some desire, and every time we desire, there must be bodily intimation. It is not the case. Are the movements bodily intimation? Not every movement is bodily intimation, like when I move when I am asleep. So this movement is a particular movement caused by the wish on my part for you to come. And so when you see this gesture calling you, you know that he wants me to go there, so you come here. So that is called bodily intimation. So with bodily gestures, we make other people know our inner thoughts or our desires. Now, what bodily intimation do you use when you want to refuse? You move your head like this, right? But many of you are familiar with Sinhalese people, Sri Lankan people. So what do they do when they want to say yes? Right? So when we first met Sri Lankan people, we thought they were refusing. They were saying no to us, but actually they were saying yes by that gesture. So that is kaya viññati in Pali and the bodily intimation. Now vocal intimation or verbal intimation is the speech, the sounds we produce. So when I want to call you, when I want to say come, then first I have the desire for you to come, or I have the desire to make that voice. And then I make the voice. So there are many VTs going on there. When I try to make the voice, what happens is my mind causes the earth elements to be produced in the throat. So the earth elements that are produced in abundance have friction with the other elements in the throat. And through the friction of these elements, the voice is produced. So when the voice is produced, it depends on the earth element and other elements. And they are caused by my desire or my mind. So when the word come out of my mouth, then you know that I want you to come here. So in the voice or in the sound come, there is something that makes you know my intention. That particular mode of that sound is what we call vocal intimation. For easy understanding, we may just say this is the speech or words we use. But actually, the words we use are the sounds, and in those sounds there is a peculiar mode that makes you understand. So that is called in Pali Vaci Viññati, vocal intimation. Both of these intimations are just a particular mode of the material properties, and they have no real existence of their own. That is why they are included in here among the non-concrete matter. Now the next are the three, and they are lightness, malleability, and wieldiness. Or in Pali, lahuta, mudduta, kammanyata. So lahuta of matter, mudduta of matter, kammanyata of matter. Now lightness or lahuta has a characteristic of non-sluggishness. Its function is to dispel heaviness in matter. Now when we are sick, now our body seems to be heavy. When we do not have the food we want to eat, when we have to eat that is poor, and there is something like heaviness in our body. The opposite of that heaviness, when we have the good climate, when we have good food, when we are healthy, then there is some kind of lightness in our body, that we can walk lightly, we can move quickly and so on. So that kind of lightness is what is called here lahuta, or lightness of matter. And second one, malleability. It's a difficult word. The Pali word mudduta means softness. Now your body is made up of 4 great essentials and other material properties. And when the earth element predominates in your body, there is some kind of hardness in the body. When it does not predominate, then there is the softness in the body. So that softness is what is called mudduta here. So it is explained here as non-rigidity. So there is no rigidness in your body. And wieldiness, kammanyata, that is favorable to bodily action. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. So that is what is called wieldiness. In Pali word kammanyata is also a difficult word to understand. That means when you want to make something, you can make it easily. So the object lends itself to be made into anything easily. So that is called wieldiness. In the books, it is compared to well-prepared piece of gold. So when gold is pure and it is well-prepared, then you can make this bar of gold into a necklace, into a bangle, and so on. So that is called kammanyada, favorable to bodily action here. So these can be detected in our bodies when we are healthy, when we have good climate, when we have to eat good food, and so on. And these three are called mutable phenomena. They are again the different modes of the material properties in our bodies. So these two plus two intimating material phenomena are called vikara Rūpa. So they change, or they are changeable. The last group is of Lakkhana Rūpa, characteristic of matter. Now this category includes four types of material phenomena. Of these, production, this is number one, and continuity, number two, are both terms for the genesis or arising or birth of matter. One arising of matter is given here two names, the upajjaya, production, and santati, continuity. They differ in that production is the first arising of a material process, the initial launching or setting up of the process, while continuity is the repeated genesis of material phenomena in the same material process. For example, the arising of the body, sex, and heart groups at conception is production, upajjaya, while the subsequent arising of those same material groups throughout life is continuity. So just the arising is given two names here, production and continuity. And the commentaries also explain that the production is the arising of material properties at the moment of rebirth. And the continuity is the arising of material properties when the I, decades, and so on arise. Now you have to understand how material properties arise after birth to understand this. So the first arising, let us say, the first arising of Rūpa is called the production, and then later arising is called continuity. Just arising, but it is given two names. Now decay is the aging of material phenomena, that is easy to understand, and impermanence here means breaking up or cessation. So disappearance or breaking up or cessation of Rūpa is called here impermanence. So in Pali, decay is called jarata and impermanence is called anicca. So these are called characteristics of matter or matter of characteristics. So these are, as I said before, not the real Rūpas, so they are called non-concrete matter. If we add the concrete matter, 18 concrete matter and 10 non-concrete matter, we get 28 material properties. So in Abhidhamma, we accept that there are 28 material properties taught. So the first group is called Buddha Rūpa in Pali. And the second group, Upada Rūpa. And among the Upada Rūpa, again the first group, Pasara Rūpa, sensitivities, and then the next group is Gochara Rūpa, objective phenomena, and next group sexual phenomena or Bhava Rūpa, and the next group Hadaya Rūpa or heart phenomenon, and then the next one is Jivita Rūpa or life phenomenon, and next is Ahara Rūpa, nutritional phenomenon. And then 10 Anipana Rūpas or non-concrete matter consists of limiting phenomenon or space element, and then the 2 Viññati Rūpas or communicating phenomena, bodily intimation and vocal intimation. And then the mutable phenomena, lightness, malleability, wieldiness of Rūpa. And the last are production, continuity, decay and impermanence. So the last 4 are just the 3 that we are familiar with: arising, presence and disappearing. So arising is here given 2 names: production and continuity. We will have a break now.